Hey builders, my name is Tosin, and I wanted to quickly walk through the process of how I'm acetone welding my Vonjet V3 panels. Special thanks goes out to Dave, who came up with this process, Luke for sharing it with me, and Matt for motivating me to create a really short, quick video. Hopefully this helps you as you go through the process yourself. Well, let's get started. First, let's talk about the materials needed. I've created a very simple rig here using a piece of plywood and blocks that are hot glued in specific locations. This allows me, at the time that my panels start to be welded together, to slide them into these particular slots, and the blocks will apply pressure to keep the panels together. When it comes time for me to work on my circles, I'll just use a hammer, knock off these blocks, and super glue them in a proper orientation to apply pressure to the circle panels as well. Please keep in mind that acetone welding is primarily used for welding together ABS panels. If your panels are made out of PLA or some other material, you'll have to use a different solvent. Now for acetone welding, the additional materials we'll need here is the acetone slurry. So this is a mixture of acetone and ABS. A syringe with acetone in it. Q-tips or some other sort of tool to spread the acetone slurry, paper towels, clamps, as well as some sort of weight. I had packages of filament lying around, and so I decided to use these. While you may have noticed me wearing nitrate gloves, and acetone does eat away at these, I'm not going to really have my hands covered in it, so that should be okay for this quick process. One last note is you should make sure that you've cut out your towels and you've made sure that it fits really well and cleanly into your panels, and there's no gaps or spaces due to them being just too long. So let's take it apart and let's go ahead and start the process. So I'm going to take my acetone slurry and grab a Q-tip, in here, and take one of the panels, and we're going to vigorously apply it on both the dowels that are in here, but also on all the exposed ABS. So making sure I just coat it really well. Okay, and so now that I've done this one side, I'm going to lie this down, take the other side, and do the same thing. Got it all nicely coated. I'm going to close the lid on this thing so it doesn't completely start evaporating. And then I'm going to take my syringe and lay a bead down the entire section. So this will even coat it even more. So then, grabbing both halves, I'm going to slot them in and push them together, applying pressure as I do. Then I can slot it into the board, which will hold it in pressure. So the next step that I'm actually going to do is I'm going to open up this slurry again, and one of the things you'll kind of notice here is there are some gaps in my panel, and what I can do is I can use the slurry mix to use it as a means of a means of welding together these empty gaps. So I'm going to use this Q-tip and apply slurry mix to it, especially in the gaps that are the largest. So that it can also weld those together and I won't have any sort of seams. Now, what I've also seen Dave do is using the syringe, apply the acetone directly into the gaps as well as in the middle, and using your paper towel, wipe across, kind of connecting any sort of gaps in the seams. Now, all of this will end up ultimately being sanded away to make it smooth. But this helps the process even more. So we're going to do a little bit more with the slurry at the very ends because this is where some of the larger gaps are, and so this can help kind of fill those. Okay, so now that I've done that, make sure that's still pushed together and pushing it back in. I took it out because it's easier just to get to the top portion. Grab one of my clamps and I'll use it to clamp the top portion to keep it together there, applying pressure. And then take my roll of filament and place that on top and call that one done. So there you have it. Really simple process in how we ABS weld the panel. And once you're done, you kind of let this set for 12 hours, but to be honest, it bonds really quickly. So you can kind of see one of the panels that I did last night, completely bonded together. It's really strong, and this will be on my BB-8. There's one more panel I have left to go, so let me quickly work on this one. So I like to have all my pegs in one side. So I'm going to put this up here. There's Q-tip. Got my stove. Let's get to work on this. That's one panel. One thing to note is the supports that you have can actually be used to help the welding process. So for example, if I had left on some of the brim um, during this welding process, I could have actually used the brim as the joiner of these two panels. Right now I'm just trying to fill them with slurry at the time. Thanks again for joining me. Hopefully you found this tutorial helpful and good luck with your building.